Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Love Your Dogs podcast. My name is Bree Drake. I am a holistic dog health educator and a certified holistic pet health coach. This podcast is heart led, real life, experience based, and sometimes a little bit of dry science. Today, I got the chance to sit down with the amazing veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Feinman. He is a licensed vet, a holistic vet, and also a homeopath. And our conversation goes a lot of different directions, but mostly centers around how important mind, body, and spirit are when it comes to our own health, our dog's health, and how it's so much more than just the physical body, which is the opposite of what our conventional or traditional veterinary systems or medical systems are looking at. And it is really important stuff. And the more that I have evolved over my journey from learning about, holistic dog health for the first time to where I am now, the more I've learned, and you guys have probably sensed this in past episodes or caught on to this, the more I've learned that there's there's so many inputs we can control, and we focus really heavily on things like diet and things like vaccines and minimizing toxic exposures. We focus really heavily on that. And while I think that is so important, I do think what outweighs that, what is more important, is that the dog's overall happiness. Are they bored? Are they stressed? Are they getting fulfilled? Are they getting enough of your attention? Are they getting enough movement? Are they getting enough sunshine and fresh air and exposure to things in the soil? And are they getting life? Are they getting a life that's as close as we can possibly get it to being a dog? Because they are still animals at the end of the day. And while there's a lot of things in our modern world and our modern way of caring for dogs that have been stacked against them and aren't ideal, we've also moved really far away from what a dog's lifestyle should actually look like. So we talk a lot about that. And I know that for some people, that might feel like the hardest piece because it's not something that can be bought. We're so heavily focused on, okay, what's the best diet I can get? What are the best supplements I can add? Maybe if I just spend the money on 10 supplements, that's going to make my dog healthy. And we can't buy our way into it. We have to put in the time and the effort. So while it's the most simple thing to understand, it is also the most demanding on our time. So we're going to get into that. He is incredible, so wonderful to learn from. He runs a membership, a platform called Holistic Actions. That's actually their Instagram. I'll link everything in the show notes, but it's a wonderful membership where you have access to so many resources, basically learning about everything I just explained. And we get into this a little bit, I think, in the episode, but right now, the best thing you can do as a dog parent is invest in education. There's plenty of free resources out there. So at a minimum, you're going to invest your time, but there is a financial investment piece to programs like Dr. Feynman's Holistic Actions and like Dr. Kendra Pope's her cancer prevention course. But those things are so worth it because while I'm harassed regularly on Instagram on social media for not being a vet and not having a medical degree, all of these things that we're talking about are things that we are entitled to know and should know as guardians and as humans. They're no longer the gatekeepers of our health information. And for a long time, our vets and our doctors really prided themselves and stroked their egos on being gatekeepers of this information. So it's difficult now for vets and people that are in support of vets and medical authority figures because people have access to information. So anyway, just invest in your education. The more you can understand this stuff at a foundational level, the less you need people like me, and you just go on about your life taking care of your dog in a meaningful way that's going to give them many happy, healthy years. And then you learn how to apply it to yourself. It's all amazing. So I'll stop jabbing because here I am talking almost 5 minutes, and let's get into my chat with the amazing Dr. Jeff Feinman.
Hello, my friend. It is such a pleasure to see you.
Such a pleasure to see you. It's finally happening. And I've told anyone I talk to, I'm like, gosh, I wish our conversation we had a couple weeks ago was recorded because it was so good. You're incredible.
And
It was like therapy.
that those are the conversations that literally fuel my life. And
Me too. Me too.
well, let's take off.
Yeah, let's take off. So, I know we touched on this a lot, and you have a book. I'm gonna go ahead and come right out and say it to anyone that's listening that you have an amazing book called The Path to Pet Wellness, right? I got that right?
You
Yes.
got that right. Yep.
Yes, I wanna make sure everyone knows that going into this because
The
they're
book,
gonna want
and I'm
more.
sorry,
Yeah.
I thought I had sent you an ebook version of it, but yeah,
Oh,
sorry
no.
about that.
No,
Oh
I've
yeah.
got the hard copy. I've
How
got
you've
it.
got it. Oh,
Yep,
great, awesome.
Pat sent me a
Oh, that's
copy.
right, that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you,
and I
Pat.
love it. It is so good, and I know that last time we talked, we were kinda touching on this, and I think maybe we can start here. I think it's one of the hardest things for people to understand because our traditional or conventional vets believe that symptoms should be silenced and suppressed. And I think even dog parents believe this too. There's this sense of accomplishment when you've made the infection go away, the irritation, the swelling, whatever's going on. And people help people understand how important these are. Our dogs can't communicate verbally, and we should really be looking at these as signs that something is going on that we need to address.
And that, as she knows why, a third of the book is about significant symptoms, which I call an SOS. The SOS that the body is giving us that, you need to help me not work against me. I mean, it's like I was talking to my wife about one of our animals this morning, and it's like the more you treat them, the more they lose their ability to be themselves. Because whenever you treat them, you're basically telling them to slow down and stop what they're doing. And it's just like when you're raising a child, and if you tell a child to stop it, what you're doing is wrong, then they're gonna eventually just whatever. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, I
those
guess.
are not happy people or dogs.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that about the child thing. I have a best friend who's got a almost 4-year-old, and it's almost like if you tell them stop doing something, they start internalizing it or hiding things from you, and that's kind of what happens to our dogs when we just keep silencing symptoms. We run into them being suppressed and moving deeper into the body.
And the big problems we discussed last time, the big problem is what you already said, that is not a model that's recognized in conventional medicine. And I've been thinking a lot about this since we spoke. I really, really think the path forward is not going to be the vets, the pet parents for sure, but I think the fastest path would be if there are any vet techs that want to learn the framework and then bring it into the conventional clinic where they already work.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was something I was curious what your take is on that because I'm always trying to brainstorm ways like how are we going to ever change this? Because there's not enough true holistic vets like you out there. And the more people shift towards this way of thinking, I mean, hopefully they won't need as much veterinary care, but to some degree, we're going to need more vets that understand this. And how do we do that? But I think the vet techs are going to be a big ticket in. And do you think that because they have less financial burden and time burden going into it?
Well, when the vets graduate, when we graduate, we pretty much are filled up with information, and I think that a non-vet that hadn't had that amount of information that they had to take in and spend for 4 years may be better able to. I mean, all the vet techs that I know, really, really want to, help that way.
There was a moment I know where you changed course in your veterinary career and journey, but I think there's so much financial expense up front and so much time. So vets have to spend a long time paying off that vet school debt. And even if they realize something isn't quite clicking or isn't quite right, they've still got to just keep their heads down and keep working. They don't really have time to there's definitely some fear involved with stepping away from what they've been taught and stepping away from earning an income to support themselves and their family. So I really understand that side of it. That's why I was thinking maybe vet techs, they have less investment up front, so they don't have as much to lose by being that disruptor to the system.
And then they can, because you're right. I mean, that is the bottom line. I mean, I don't know many vet techs that graduate with $250,000 in
No.
debt the way most vets have
Yeah.
nowadays. But then those vets that may be on the border, they know there's more out there, but they just don't have time to really study homeopathy or any holistic modality. Then they can offer that to their clients with the vet tech. There are a lot of lay homeopaths that are not medical. I mean, they've got basic, anatomy and physiology and all the stuff that a vet tech,
Yeah.
well-trained vet tech has. They can, I mean, you know as well as I do that what's in the book is really written for you and me. I mean, as pet parents, not really for veterinarians, and that it is really may not be easy, but it's simple. It's very, very simple. And that may be one of the biggest flaws is this framework of balance that we're talking about, which is also the framework that, indigenous cultures around the world have used for thousands of years and that we
Mhm.
know to be true.
Mhm.
Too darn simple. It couldn't be that simple. If it was that simple, someone would have done it already. Well,
It is.
you can do it. You can do it. Yeah, I mean, I will give you a recent example. It's a personal example again, so I know it's verified. My own cat ran through the medical gamut. I think I mentioned to you last
Did.
time that, yeah. Well, after that, she came home and she was not doing well. And I got rechecked blood work and her blood count, for cat, you like to see a blood count around 30 or 40. And her blood count was 14. And she had leukemia in her blood. And all that I did after panicking and freaking out, because, like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this. She was feeling better and recovering, but all that I did in the past couple of weeks was the path about wellness. We made her happy. We gave her the food she loves and changed her lifestyle, used some homeopathy and other gentle support. Her blood work, which I did yesterday, I just got back this morning, is back to normal, 100% normal. Her 14 blood count is now 30. Her 55,000 white count is now normal at 12. So no more leukemia, no more anemia, and no drugs.
It's miraculous, but like you said, it's really simple stuff. It's really simple. Yeah, we like to use these hammers on them all the time, and sometimes that's necessary, but usually it's not as a starting point.
For sure, for sure. But
It's doing better.
yeah, I mean, I haven't sent the blood work yet to the internist that I'm working with, an internal medicine specialist, but I'll be curious to see what he says because, that kind of turnaround is not something that we learn about in vet school unless we're on, immunosuppressants. And even then, it's not that dramatic. But this is what the body can do, and this is what I think you and I are trying to get across is just trust in the wisdom in the body. And smartest doctor in the room is always Dr. Mother Nature.
Beautiful. It's so right. And I know so I guess we can segue into this a little. You mentioned to me, which I hadn't heard of this before, the Gentle Giants Rescue. And I dug more into that. And it's amazing to me what dogs are capable of tolerating when we get the most foundational stuff right. When they have that social connection, that time outside, that freedom, they're getting lots of movement because you had told me a little bit about this, but I did more digging, and yes, they were entirely kibble fed, and the gentle giants, I think, were mostly Great Danes, but they had some other large breeds too, which normally don't live very long lives, but they reported that these dogs were living an average of 15 to 16 years, some as much as 18 years, and that's just unheard of, but they lived in a big open area, they were outside, they were free to engage and move, and they ate kibble. And I don't know about their vaccination status or meds or anything like that, but it just goes to show you that dogs can tolerate a lot when we support them with all of that foundational stuff. Not that they should. And that's where it gets blurred, where I don't think we should do things that are known to be harmful. I think imagine what those dogs' lives would have been like if they were
Mm,
fed species appropriate food. But I think in this holistic space, I see it often. There's so much focus on diet, there's so much focus on supplements. And yeah, you can get a lot of that stuff right. You can minimize vaccines, minimize meds. But if you're not getting the other stuff right, it's really not going to matter. What are your thoughts on that?
that was an essential part of the path that helped my cat, um, return because she was being stressed out by the dog. Well, we had to start keeping the dog and the cat separate. She was, not enjoying her life, her engagement, her exercise. We had to maximize that, start to optimize that and start to use the clues that our body gives us to give her homeopathic medical doses that just help her body work and do its job. Because, what we do as veterinarians is kind of just the opposite. We focus on antis. We work against the functions of the body. And that approach really, really works. The anti approach gets rid of symptoms all the time. The problem is that we don't see the bigger picture of long-term health. And you're right. I mean, whether it's a rescue or I actually started focusing on this about it a while back. I did a lecture series at a training facility, and the owner at that time used to work for a breeder of Newfoundlands. So, big giant dogs, and they were all living in the 50s. In the 1950s, when she worked there, they were all living into their 17, 18, 16 was very common, yeah. And now you get a 13-year-old, large breed dog, and it's like surprising.
Uh, Yeah, our large breeds, it being some kind of miracle now if your dog lives to 12, 13, 14 years old, which is really sad. It breaks my heart because they could be living so much longer when they're supported right. Um, and going back to this whole idea of symptom suppression, I was talking to you about my last 2 Goldens when we had our conversation and how the one who actually didn't get diagnosed with cancer until she was 12, was very expressive, had UTIs and skin things and ear infections kind of dappled throughout her life. Whereas my younger dog who got diagnosed with hemangiosarcoma at 8.5 years old, he was seemingly even, never really had any issues. And now looking back, I can remember like a couple subtle things, paw chewing and itchy ears. He would groan and scratch his ears. But other than that, he was never no ear infections, like never expressing. And this is always hard for me to wrap my head around. Every time I get there, it makes sense where we assume that a dog that is even and not showing anything is very healthy. But our dogs are going to be exposed to things and need to work through things. That's natural. So we've just been taught to believe that, oh, it's a great thing if they're not showing me what's going on. But really, that's a body that's not really functioning as it should. Does that make sense? Or am I on the right track with that?
You definitely
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
and, I bring it all back down to vitality and energy, which actually is cellular energy, and that is, the mitochondria that produce that cellular energy are just not optimized, and going back to something else you said when we were talking about the kibble-fed dogs that lived a long life, they just had everything else right. We both agree that connection, that sunshine, that the outdoor, that, you know, uh, everything perfect. And I would just characterize that as happiness. They were just happy dogs. But that made them less susceptible, less likely to get sick from the kibble. So you can have two dogs that eat the same diet. One gets sick and one doesn't. Two dogs, there's a story in the book. Two dogs go into kennel, they're both exposed to kennel cough. They both have their kennel cough shots. One gets sick, one doesn't. Why? And that's because the inner balanced susceptibility is actually better in the dog that doesn't get sick. So in other words, the opposite of susceptibility is resilience. So the more resilient they get, the less susceptible they are to that environmental toxin or that kibble or whatever they're exposed to. Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I just gonna say, and the vitality that we were talking about is expressed through joy, happiness, and play, and yeah. So, we'll talk some other time perhaps about, what that looks like. And I actually just got off from someone whose dog is kind of expressing that low energy where they don't want to get up, they don't want to, reach with the door, they don't want to go on their full walks, they lie down and, they'd rather be sitting rather than walking or moving. 'Cause like you said, movement is what it's all about.
No, I 100% agree with that. And I've seen dogs beyond just that rescue you told me about. I know of dogs who still live on farms and they eat kibble diets, but I know they're out, they're roaming. They're roaming miles and miles a day, and they're probably catching prey and eating it, getting that whole prey diversity, getting the exercise from hunting and they're raised around on farms around and industrial agricultural chemicals and still thriving because they're living a life really close to what dogs should be living. And I think it's a big missing piece. And I always hate to bring this up, but I find myself talking about it a lot where dogs used to be primarily on farms, and over the last several decades, dog ownership became more popular as conventional medicine made it look really convenient and kibble made it look really convenient. Where dog parents can buy the kibble, you protect them with shots, you protect them, or you keep your house bug free and you keep your dog flea and tick free with these preventatives. They make it look really convenient, and your dog can sit at home all day while you go to work. Your dog can stay home where you go on vacation, or they can lock them in a kennel. So it makes it look really convenient. And our dogs are just, as a product of that, as a product of so many people saying, I can do that, a lot of our dogs are living lives they just weren't designed for. And I hate to say that, but I want people to know that because as close as you can meet in the middle, the happier your dog is going to be. The idea that the conventional world has sold us just isn't sustainable. Obviously, our dogs are getting sicker and sicker, and there's a lot of inputs that we can control from, what goes into them, what meds we're using, vaccines, all of that. But it's also in our hands to give them a life that helps them better handle some of these modern exposures. It's really tough. I hate to have to say it because it makes people feel so guilty.
What we can and what they're gonna do is help us do the best that we can do, because we love our animals. We love our dogs. You know, love your dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
We do, and that love, I mean, when I reported the blood worked. My wife this morning, she said, the power of love. And that is the bottom line. Love does heal because love enables us to look outside the box. It enables us to follow their joy. And when we follow their joy, when we let them be joyful like a dog, that that's that's the bottom line. That's why the happiness protocol is the centerpiece of holistic actions where we teach this approach. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about holistic actions and the happiness part of it.
Sure, Holistic
Yeah.
Actions is an online platform where any pet parent, vet, or pet professional can join us. We're building a community like the Love Your Dogs community. We're all together as one. And basically, we just support people and teach them how to walk this path. So the book is the beginning of the path, and then either you walk it on your own because you're confident, or we do it with you via the resources. We have a couple hundred hours of videos of Kendra Pope, a couple hours of Kendra, a couple hours of other holistic leaders throughout the
Yeah.
world. In addition to a Q&A forum where if you have any questions, you can always ask us. If you're, you can get access to our Sage Concierge that just reframes all of your pet questions in the way that we're talking based on happiness and what is the happiness protocol that Sage will tell you about. And that is really just three parts. Number one is identify what your dog loves the most. Those things usually really, really easy to find. They fall into, eat, play, and love. I mean, it's one of those three usually, if not always. And so number two, part two, do more of that. Usually we say double that. If it's a sniff walk, if your dog just loves sniffing, just, try to do it for twice the amount of time
Mhm.
as usual. And then number three, evaluate the response. And the way you evaluate the response is something also we teach at HA, which is the BEAM score. BEAM is behavior, energy, appetite, and mood. And they are the reflection, the outer reflection of the inner workings of the body. So when the body is in balance, it's like you're on a balance beam. You're balancing beautifully. You're getting the gold medal.
I love that, and it's so simple, and people will spend so much money and so much time at the vet buying the supplements, buying into so many things when really all our dogs want is our time and our love. People complain to me about feeding fresh and how it's so expensive. I'm like, well, really, you owe your dog the time. I'd rather you spend time with your dog first. Get that right. Play with them because really it's a beautiful experience for human and dog. The more humans get outside and get moving, the healthier we are, the healthier our dog. I mean, it just goes hand in hand. I love that so much about what you and I speak to is we see it work for our dogs. I'm like, huh, it's working for us too. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. It makes so much sense. And um I see so much consumerism in the pet industry as a whole and even in the holistic pet industry. And it's like, no, just dial it back. You can I believe in investing in education, but spend time with your dog. Try that first and try doing what they love. Try focusing on that. Try spending more time with them. And that makes a huge difference before you just start adding all of these mystery supplements to the bowl and chasing numbers. Just focus on the dog. I love that.
Exactly. Focus on the dog in front of you. And I'm going to double down on what you just said.
Double down.
Invest in education. So I'm going to ask all of your listeners should take the free one-on-one class because in HA, we
Mhm.
have a free class that is kind of the basics of what we're talking about, the happiness protocol and beam and fresh food cooking and vitality and balance and really it's all about getting the body to work at its best. And that's also what the medical field of homeopathy does. And homeopathy is actually where I would somebody is already doing the best. They're already having a happy dog that's active and eating a fresh food diet, but they're having symptoms. Then homeopathy can help the body do even better than it's doing right now. And when it does its best, those symptoms go away.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to get into homeopathy from an acute perspective. I mean, I started learning it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I love it. It's such a wonderful tool to have if little things come up at home. But for any big thing that someone's going through with their dog, my first resort is always going to be homeopathy. And I always say if I was in your shoes, I would pause so long as your dog is stable, not in a life or death situation, and I would work with a homeopathic veterinarian, and you can do that virtually. You don't have to have one nearby. That's the beautiful thing about it. And that is the first step I would take for something chronic and more serious, always. So let me ask you on that note, do you offer virtual consultations?
I do. If
Okay,
you're
okay.
if you're a member of the holistic
Oh,
actions
okay, good.
community. So the reason I do it that way is because there are a lot of people that have their initial consult, but then they're able to get what they need from AJ because
Yeah.
it's a lot of people are now coming with young and relatively healthy pets. So once you begin to upgrade the mitochondria, they
Yes.
stay healthy. They're
Yes.
like well-oiled machine, but they're not a machine. They're a living being, and you know how to nurture them through sniff walk, therapeutic sniff walk, fresh food, or yeah, because it's not about the supplement. It's not about what do I give or how much fat or what are the micronutrients. Yeah, it's really just about one vitamin. We all only need one vitamin, and that is vitamin V. Vitamin V, vitality.
Vitality, yep. I'm so glad you said that. Because while I love the holistic space and the holistic educators and vets within it, I think very few understand that. Or I think well, for one, we've made feeding so overcomplicated, and it's not. It really isn't. So a lot of the things sound really complicated on the surface level, and I think push people away or make people intimidated. So I love that you said it like that. It's really simple, and I love that you're seeing people with young, healthy dogs join the community because I know in my particular case, I it wasn't the cancer diagnoses that had me switch. I had switched about a year prior, but my dog was having severe inflammation and arthritis, and I started seeing an acupuncture vet and switched her food and saw the changes. So it took something serious to wake me up. I waited until there was clear, severe symptoms. So I'm really happy to see people that are being proactive without having something traumatic happen because I mean, if you can just get those building blocks right from the beginning, like get the foundational stuff right, and then even better, get the diet right, even better understanding how medical interventions like vaccines and the flea and tick preventatives chip away at health. The sooner you understand that, you're going to have such a long, beautiful life with your happy, healthy dog. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and and you said something else that was jewel because this process that we're talking about is going to help us awaken as well as no, they're already awake. They're already uh, as good as we're allowing them to be because they will be their best selves if we allow them to be their best selves. And there is one thing keeping us from doing that, and that is our brains and our thoughts and our fears and our anxieties about what if I feed too much of this or that. But the point that I was trying to make about what you said about awakening is that another resource I'd really like to provide in your links is an article that I wrote about this paradigm, but it's with with the purpose of helping us awaken. So how an approach to pet care can help us awaken and have a better life.
I see that, the anxiety piece is important because I'll try and get this out. I was thinking about it today and how I wanted to talk to you about it. See how I do. So, I think the more anxious you are about health in general, the more you're kind of bringing on that bad energy and making yourself more susceptible to illness for yourself, for your dog. So you can avoid the vaccines, feed the raw diet, do all of those right things. But if you're anxious about it, instead of just letting it be fluid and, not trying to be perfect, but still focusing on the right things, like your dog is gonna be I mean, your dog is still sorry, Pine was scratching around down there and it lost my train of thought. So, yes, the more anxious you are, no matter how well the inputs that you're doing that you decide on are, like, your dog is gonna suffer from that, um, on both ends. I think it really just comes down to being relaxed and being confident in your decisions and, like you said at the beginning, trusting your body, trusting the dog's body. I think that plays a huge part that people they don't wanna hear it. They don't wanna hear it. I have so many people who tell me they did absolutely everything right for their dog. They go on about the diet, they go on about the vaccine schedule or the minimal vaccines. They did the right water. They tell me they did everything right. And I'm like, "Well, if you were hyper focused on it and stressed out about it, there's that piece." I don't say this to them, but I think about these things. I'm like, it sounds to me like you're so focused that you checked all these boxes that maybe you were thinking about it too much. Does that make sense?
It does and
Okay,
it
okay.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm a simple guy. I like to break things down, as basic as possible. And, granted, my career started as a molecular biologist where, it was all about breaking things down to the smallest piece possible. But, I want to break that down to the fact that thoughts are energy, that our thoughts are an energy that can both heal and optimize healing or be a block. And you said it, beautifully yourself. It can actually make you more susceptible to getting sick. We know that the more anxious that we are, I grew up as an anxious and depressed individual that would get sick all the time. And there was a direct correlation for sure. And we know that, in medicine, that our thoughts are powerful energy that help optimize our mitochondria. I'll give you a quick example verified in research in people, because none of us, unfortunately, my friend, isn't dogs yet. That's why, I think that we need to get in and change things around a little bit. But in people, there's a wonderful doctor up at Yale named Becca Levy that has a paradigm or did some research on age belief. Age belief is just our thoughts about how old we're going to be. Just by changing that energy and thinking that we're going to live to 105 in my case, or, just by doing that, we live 7.5 years longer. So even if you're 80 and you say, oh, I'm going to be dead when I'm 84,
Yeah.
say, no, I'm going to live till 95. You're going to live up to 7.5 years longer.
Mhm.
And, that is what we're seeing with our animals as well. We put, a limit on, the 12-year-old cat that goes to the vet and is diagnosed as being an old cat with kidney failure. And probably, but you and I know that a 12-year-old cat is a middle-aged cat. Just like an 80-year-old person should have, 20 or more vital years. And how do we know that? From the blue zones around the world. In these blue zones, people are vital, connected, active, eating a fresh food diet, happy, they have a purpose in life and living and working into their 90s and hundreds. I think they figured once at our genetic age, when our body's just it's 120. So that's why my goal's 105. I'm not going to push it.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I might steal that from you, 105. Well, I love that you bring this up because you have and we can talk about your background a little bit. We haven't talked about how long you've been doing this, your molecular biology background. All of that is so important because this can sound really, what people call woo-woo, all this energy stuff, but we are energy. At the end of the day, it we have all this fancy technology, this fancy modern medicine, and I know that's way cooler to some people, but it's overcomplicated. We are very simple organic beings at the end of the day. So I really like coming from someone like you who has such a deep science background to openly admit that this is the way it is.
You
So
know,
yeah.
if you want to look at the core of it, we're made up of trillions of functions every millisecond. Our bodies are doing things that modern medicine has no idea about. But the vital force, the life force, the energy, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, allows our bodies to do what they do. It allows all of nature to exist, by physics. If you look at the physics laws, say, of entropy, we should not be alive, but there's something keeping us alive that's smarter than we can ever learn in medical school or veterinary school. So I say, why don't we focus on making that part that we don't yet understand? Why don't we focus on making that as happy as possible? So easy to do. Is just what you said, be connected, go with the flow, live in harmony with nature, with your dog, and try not to worry too much, because that worry is an epidemic. We are in an epidemic of anxiety, of uncertainty, and worry, and loneliness, and disconnection. Because the reality is, what we're talking about is all the paradigm of interconnection. Somebody asked me, a student I was mentoring a couple days ago, asked me about spirituality. And, I said, well, really, it's just at the basics that we're all connected. It's spiritual paradigm that the trees, the grasses, our dogs, and ourselves are all, really able to communicate energetically with each other. And now, Zach Bush, I don't know if you know Zach Bush, but I know he just put out a thing that birdsong opens the pores of trees to allow them to
Mhm.
breathe better.
I could look that up.
And that is the paradigm of nature. That is what Gail Pope said meant when she said the smartest doctor in the room is Dr. Mother Nature. She was referring to the end of life process, that you don't want to do. You want to be, which is what Dr. Mother Nature wants you to be. I know when I'm feeling overwhelmed, the number one action I have is to go outside, sit on the ground, and watch my dog run around. Or better yet, run around with her and play with her like I'm a dog.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, it's the paradigm of connection versus disconnection. And unfortunately, this disconnection is what you described earlier as being, the way that we can focus on individual things. And it is ironic that as a molecular biologist who's trained to focus on the smallest things possible, that, through them I was able to realize that it's really more about the biggest things, because you can look at the small things and then they connect you to the bigger things if you have an open mind.
Yeah.
An open mind.
Yes. I think that's a big problem in both dog parents and veterinarians, the lack of open-mindedness, the lack of being able to think outside the box and think critically and question things a little bit. Question the dog's individual expressions in front of them. It's it's so simple and gosh, it's become so overcomplicated. Just thinking back on my evolution now over the last few several years, it's crazy how I've been all over the place, and it really just comes down to these simple things. The pet industry makes a whole lot of money off of us believing that it should be more complicated. So, the power is in our hands, really.
Power is in our hands, and that's
Yeah.
why the subtitle of the book is
Oh, yeah.
Thriving Pets and Empowered Pet Parents.
Yeah.
'Cause taking that power back is the essence of holistic medical decision making. Because you need to, have the ability to make that decision, and you can only make a wise decision if you have all the information. And really, all the information is just what do symptoms mean? Are they a good thing or a bad thing? Do we want to embrace them like friends or run away from them? And how do we manage? What can we do to manage susceptibility? That's why the three parts of the book are symptoms, susceptibility, and holistic medical decision making.
Haven't got to the decision-making part yet. Maybe we talk about that a little because while I'm always leaning towards we exhaust all natural and gentle methods first with our dogs, what are some instances for people listening who may not know where you would maybe jump to the hammers, to the conventional sides of things right away? I mean, obvious emergencies, but what other things in your experience, like where do you usually start?
I broke broken bones, but that would fall in the
Emergency, yeah.
category of emergency. Yeah,
Yeah.
bloat, rapid change in beam. If you monitor beam and your beam of 8 or 9, it's now a 5 or 6, then yeah, I'd go right in and just rule out that things are going on physiologically. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, beam is an early warning sign. So beam will drop before you're going to find diagnostic results. And that's the example of the dog that you and I, as a pet parent, know is sick. No, they're not eating right. But you go to the vet, they say they look fine, they do blood work, it's all fine, x-rays are all fine, but they're still sick. That is where the province of energetic medicine comes in. That is when you need to start walking the path. You can either do nothing and just be anxious and worried about your dog, or help them to be better by the next day. And often it is a one-day turnaround for sick animals because they know how to rebalance. Have you ever been to Africa?
I haven't. I would love to go, but I have not
Uh, you
been yet.
you've probably seen, videos or, TV of mine wants to go out and run around the backyard.
That's okay.
You've probably seen, pictures of gazelles, that were grazing, and then, hyenas come, they all the huge herd of gazelles get into sympathetic state and run away, and they're really freaked out to get back to grazing right away because they know animals know how to reset, and they shake it off, or they do a big yawn or a big stretch, and they're fine after that.
Yeah.
And that's what Maya's doing right now is she's saying, "Why are you taking me out, Dad?"
Uh-huh. I know that. Well, you're welcome to take her out if you want.
Oh, when I
Okay,
mean,
okay, you're just wait.
I plan Maya wants to be with us. She said she would like to
Oh,
join us
hi,
on this.
Maya. Oh, I love her. I love seeing her on your Instagram.
Hi, sweetie. Say hi. She
Oh,
can say hi.
yeah, and I
Oh,
think, "Hi,
oh.
baby."
Mm.
I think, Yeah, being able to recognize that, and since I've been coaching people one-on-one, I have a lot of people that immediately jump to panic when something is wrong, which is good. I'm glad that they're observant and they're paying attention. Oh, now my dog's worked up. You can see him. Oh, he went in the bedroom. But I think hey, it's okay, bub. Sorry, we'll let him do his thing for a second. It's okay, bub. Here. I wonder if he heard Maya. I wonder if he hears her call her, "Hey, come here."
Or just felt her
He
energy.
felt
I
he
mean,
knows I was
yeah.
talking to another dog. He's like, "Where is she? Hi. You wanna say hello?" But I was saying that people I work with one-on-one tend to jump to conclusions. They recognize the beam, which I wanna remind everyone that's behavior, energy, appetite, and movement?
Mood.
Movement. And mood, sorry,
Mood.
mood, and people recognize that, which I appreciate, but they automatically run to the vet. They run to the vet, and then they usually get talked into doing something they're not comfortable with, which usually sets us back a little bit, and so I think it's that's where I love homeopathy. I love the philosophy behind it because a lot of times, even though I have homeopathic tools, a lot of times I won't even administer a remedy. I'll say, "Huh, this isn't bad enough," or "I don't really need to urge the body. I'm gonna let it do its thing." So that's what I'm constantly battling with people is, "How is your dog doing? Eating, drinking, normal, playful?" I wouldn't let that worry you. I'd watch it for a couple days and see what happens tomorrow. But when I'm encouraging people to use homeopathy, they love it and they get so excited. And I did this too, where I wanted to give a remedy for everything that I saw. And it's like, no, this doesn't really need it right now.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to building resilience, because that's
Mhm.
really what we're talking about, is the ability to stay balanced, and homeopathy
Yeah.
is just gonna help the body to rebalance, and when it comes to building that resilience and that rebalancing ability, I couldn't agree with you more. You need to let the body expose it to the stressors that allow it to stay balanced. Because when we're not exposed to stressors, if we live in our comfort zone all the time, then we're going to be much more likely to sprain an ankle or break something. Because it's like the astronauts in space, they don't have the stress of gravity pressing on them, and they lose the ability after a while to even walk around because their muscles have atrophied so much because the stress of gravity isn't around. So, if you ever went to the gym, there's an exercise called the lat pull down where you're
Uh-huh.
exercising your lats. So I do the lat framework, where we just s- before we panic, we listen. By listen, L in lat, listen as in what's my animal trying to tell me? What are the symptoms? A, and accept them as doing the best they can, whatever the cause. But very, very important then is the T in lat, L-A-T, is trust. Trust that the body is designed to rebalance. Excuse me.
Gosh, I love that acronym. I'm gonna have to share that with everyone because,
Ye-
yeah,
ye-
listen, accept, and trust. Lat. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, because we're just talking about resilience building,
Uh-huh.
and to build resilience, that's
Yeah.
often all you have to do.
Yeah, it's important to know what is a true emergency, what really needs your attention or even veterinary attention. But for the most part, most of what our bodies are doing are just recalibrating and regulating and adjusting. And if we just give it some time, and I think that's a powerful part of homeopathy too, is it forces us to wait and observe. It really does. Just by the nature of how it works, it trains us to really tune in to specific symptoms and watch and wait and not intervene unless we have to. It's been a great teacher for me. So anyone listening, remember to get yourself a homeopathy kit because
Or
it
if
opens.
if you want to, I'm just gonna stop you there
Yeah.
because yeah, when you get your kit, definitely learn acute homeopathy. But the first thing you want to learn is how you can work with homeopathy and conventional medicine at the same time because it's one framework. It's really one framework of healing, and that's what the book is based on, homeopathy. I mean, I don't talk about homeopathy until chapter 33 or 35 near the very end, but a homeopathy is the essence of what we've been talking about. It's what I call scientific wellness. Scientific wellness is a paradigm in conventional medicine based on 4 Ps. The 4 Ps are personalized, predictive, so we know what can help and what can hurt, preventative, and participatory, which means we're part of the process. And we know in human medicine that participating in the care is going to improve the outcomes, that you get better faster, that you get better more often when you are part of the process. Which is why empowerment is so, 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 so important.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up. So give me an example of when conventional medicine would work well with homeopathy.
Oh, anytime. I mean, I'll give you an example how I worked with Aviva and her IBD and villus atrophy, and she had diarrhea. We worked with homeopathy, but we didn't address lifestyle, but we worked with homeopathy, and then her beam, and she was fine for months with diarrhea off and on. But then her beam dramatically dropped, and she began losing weight. And the next step for me was to get some baseline blood work, find out what's going on internally, because symptoms are externally expressed, but they're also internal. So when the liver is acting up, when the kidney is acting up, that's because the energy flow, the mitochondrial function is not optimized. And that is reflected in beam, but it's also reflected in the blood work and x-rays and all diagnostic tests. So I say any non-invasive diagnostic test that you can afford that's not too stressful for your animal, it's always going to help inform the process. So that was the conventional part. Now we need to take that, apply it to physiology,
Mm.
erase the disease names and labels and things that we
Yeah.
that we're scared of, and then use homeopathy to get them better, like the cat that I was mentioning that had the blood count of 14 2 weeks ago. That's now a normal blood count of 30. Maybe I mentioned that to the person before. Did we talk about that?
We talked, no, we did not. We talked about that here,
Yeah.
but not yeah.
And
We talked about the
I apologize because my client right before you, excuse me. Oh no, you just destroyed your bed. My. Sorry, excuse me
No,
one
no, no, you're fine, you're
second
fine.
because she's ingesting. Oh, you silly girl. Oh, give me this. Your mom's gonna have to fix this now. I'm sorry.
No, she's eating it.
She was eating it. Yep, she
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
got the, the fuzz out somewhere, so she found a hole and
Oh, yeah. That's
darn,
my
that's
that's
her
my
favorite
guy's
thing.
my
Yeah.
guy's one weakness too. He doesn't tear up anything, but the only thing he's gotten a hold of was a bed with the filling like that. I was in the shower and came out, it was everywhere. I'm like, "Oh."
Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, we
Yeah, they
just
love it. They love ripping that stuff out.
okay. But want to cut down? Good girl. All the way, please. Ah, She's so, she's just so happy and joyful, just now, like playing, even though
Mm,
she's not able to
posing.
go out. Do you fall down, please? Okay. She had to come over here so she could lie on her bed. All right. Sorry about that, Bring.
No, that's okay. Let me see,
Um,
let's see, what did I wanna add to that? We were talking about, yes, your cat, the remedies. Yeah, what so What did
We
that journey look like? It
yeah,
was a couple of
the
weeks' time or a few weeks' time of
it
were
was
you
months.
using a
It was
month?
months. It was
Oh, it was
months
but
of
when you got
just
between the 2 blood
homeopathy.
works, it was months?
No, no, that then her being dropped, we went to the ICU, and she was there for a week
Remember
and had
that, yeah.
surgery and every 2 transfusions and this and that, and tens of thousands of dollars later, she came back and she was still emaciated. She still had diarrhea. She still had all the same symptoms. But they wanted me to repeat her blood work in 2 weeks after she came home. And that was 2 weeks ago when her blood count was 14. Her blood count was 14. And her white count was 50,000. And it was like leukemia, severe anemia. Those are the labels, but we erased the labels. And I just got the blood work back, rechecked from 2 weeks ago. Her blood count is totally normalized.
That
We
was
could
just
we couldn't do that with medicine. I mean, even with drugs, as strong as drugs, I could not even imagine a 14 becoming a 30. And again, I'm happy to provide the blood test results. I mean, blew me away.
Yeah.
That this cath that I was about to run what's called a flow cytometry to find out what really is going on with these weird abnormal cells that are out of control. But we didn't run the $1,000 flow cytometry because her blood count is all normal.
And that was just 2 weeks of some lifestyle adjustments and
Like
homeopathic support. And
that's it.
how many remedies do you think you used over that 2 weeks as
Oh,
things
just
changed and shifted?
2 so far.
Just 2? Wow.
But I use them frequently, like one remedy she's getting every day now at this point.
It's
But
incredible.
she still has diarrhea and she's still underweight, and they shaved her for her ultrasound and surgery a month ago. She hasn't grown back one hair. She looks so funny. Her base of her tail is all shaved up, and then she has a big fluffy tail. But her body's focusing on one thing at a time, and that is, the first thing was healing was the blood, the thing that would basically have killed her. Blood count of 14 is barely compatible. Rapid onset of 14 is not really compatible with life. Those are the pets, excuse me, those are the pets that, that need to be hospitalized when their
Yeah.
blood count was normal last week and this week it's 14. But, I was able to talk my wife out of what's going back to the hospital. And actually, even the doctor said, didn't even suggest, no, I think it was just in his mind, the end of
It's interesting how intelligent the body is with the hair regrowth, how it's gonna focus on most vital, essential healing first before anything else. Because normally someone would look at that and be like, "What's going on? Why isn't the hair growing back?" I was thinking that, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's amazing. Yeah, homeopathy is incredible, and I often think of it too as a great support for when animals are going through surgery or do have an emergency. It can be given alongside conventional treatment. Something I worry about often is snake bites where I live, and I look at what a vet would do, and most of them aren't going to do a whole lot, and they're not going to have the antivenom on hand, and the few things that they're gonna do, I don't think are supportive enough, and that's why so many dogs struggle with really intense bites. So I have a homeopathy kit that I would begin administering and would be administer alongside the conventional support if that ever happened. It's incredible.
beautiful, beautiful, because that virtually guarantees the best outcome.
Yeah,
Doing what you just described and not panicking, not giving up, but rather uh, using both the best of both worlds. That was actually how we began the year this year in HA was in holistic actions was with we do a month of webinars. We do, every week there's a support webinar. And they were all the theme for January was how to get the best of both worlds.
Hopefully, you don't need the other world, but we have to be realistic. It can come up. You just have to be prepared. And I imagine that's covered in your decision-making section of the book too.
It is, it is,
That's
it is.
such a great section because I know I've made some poor decisions too because I didn't know any better with my dogs, my past dogs. So I know people run into that all the time. Just decisions made out of fear, out of maybe not knowing the full picture, not knowing what to ask, not knowing what to look for. So I said this already, but I encourage anyone, if your animal is stable, to pause and at least get a second opinion. At least take a night to sleep on it before you jump into the surgery, which is usually what they're recommending you do right away. Sometimes it's okay to take a step back and you work with a holistic or homeopathic veterinarian. Show them the lab results, show them the X-rays, the ultrasound imaging, and they can work out a plan with you instead. That's usually a lot more supportive. Yeah.
And while you're pausing, take the one-on-one class. Because when you pause, if you take that one-on-one class, it is going to change what you do as your next step. So that is actually a great 1-2 punch to the anxiety of uncertainty is pause and take that one-on-one. And if you're in HA, go to our Sage. Sage is our concierge whenever you have a question, you just write it down and Sage will answer you 24/7.
Yeah, having the tools that you have in your membership is what you call it, right? Your membership?
It is a
Are
membership.
gold because it helps people to pause and realize, like, yeah, you have more control over this situation than you realize. It's okay. Because I hate to see people go to the vet for reasons they don't need to, and then they get feared into antibiotics or something, and then they're dealing with gut issues after that. I love resources that you offer because it gives people have a hard time making those decisions.
Now, in the perfect world that you and I are imagining, where, vet techs or others, somebody is always thinking this way. In that perfect world, you're actually increasing the number of vet visits because the vet visits are, excuse me, you want to say hi again? Yeah, she's helping
Oh
herself
my
to the
god.
treats.
She's so cute.
The vet visits are there to do basic exams, to do basic diagnostics, to make sure everything is going well internally as well as externally. So yeah, I would say you want to have a good vet visit. You may have a vet that's trying to give you an antibiotic or a shot or do something, but all you have to really say is thank you. Let me just calm and think about it.
Exactly. That's a phrase I tell people. Keep it in your back pocket. You don't have to do anything on the spot. You can say, I appreciate that information. I'm going to go home and think about it. That's all you have to say. Because I know it gets hard. It gets hard to be confrontational. But that's really all you have to say is, oh, we're not doing that today. Oh, I can't afford to add on anything else today. Maybe next appointment. Like there's lots of ways to get around it. And that reminds me, I don't know how much time you still have, but as far as testing, I used to be more purist where I was like, I feel like running tests, whether it be blood work or nutrient testing or like heavy metal testing, running all of that stuff, I'm like, that gets you kind of anxious if you don't know how to interpret the results and chasing numbers. And I used to be pretty against it. But once I had a conversation with Dr. Kendra Pope, and she really transformed my way of thinking around that, where we have time to get things right and we have time to monitor what might be going wrong early before our dogs get sick, especially in our cancer-prone breeds. So I just wanted to know what your thought is on routine testing and, regular testing.
I mean,
Some
I'm
of it.
a diagnostician at
Yeah,
heart. I mean, my first decade was pursuing, internal medicine, endocrinology, aging, and
yeah.
all that. So, yeah, I could not agree more with annual testing. If they're really say hi again. Yeah, she says,
And so
I'm gonna be
what do you recommend for a minimum, especially for a cancer-prone breed, and when, when do you start?
oh, ooh, ooh.
That's a tough
When you
one.
when you when you start depends a lot on your pocketbook and
Mhm.
your anxiety, your desire. So sorry,
Okay.
you're messing everything up here. So come on,
We're just
Dad.
like, "Wrap it up."
Like, she's like, "Come on, Dad." Really, hi, hi, hi. Yeah, when you start really depends on if I usually start like Maya would have her baseline at about 6 years of age, and then annually after that. But cancer-prone younger
Yeah,
dogs,
like a
you may
golden
only
retriever,
start
yeah.
with Golden at 3.
At 3, yeah,
I know people, I mean, they get a baseline when they're getting neutered or spayed often, and then they do it again when they're 2 or 3,
yeah, okay.
then every couple of years or yeah. But I really, really, really cannot emphasize, hi, sweetie, I cannot emphasize that beam is gonna change in some way along with that. And then frequently you can see subtle changes in beam before you see any change in the blood work.
Yes.
Cat that I mentioned before, for example, had a B12 level that was way suboptimal, and certainly what
Mhm.
you would expect with GI disease. So I started supplementing her with B12. Actually, gave her a couple of shots, and then she went in the hospital, and they didn't give her the shots, and they forgot to tell me to give her the shots. So she didn't have the shots, but when I did that recheck, I happened to recheck B12, sky high. So yeah, I mean, and how do I know that not to be a word? Because her being just kept getting better and better and better. She was
Yeah.
gaining weight, just getting stronger. She was regrowing her muscles. Her body was doing what it is designed to do.
Mhm,
That's really our only job.
mhm.
Not euthanable isn't our job, but helping her be a joyous being that she is by not suppressing her, by not saying no, no, no. Well, we say yes and, in life, it's all about yes and.
Mhm.
I agree with that in the body as well. Yes, and whatever you're saying, and what we're going to mindfully do to help support you in the interim. And that may be go outside. That may be a special treat. That may be a special 5 minutes of love with me.
Mhm.
It depends on the individual, and that is the essence of what we teach at HA and Happiness Protocol.
Yeah.
So, and what all of our, I mentioned hundreds of hours of videos, what they're all doing is they're reframing all of the conventional diagnoses and diseases and labels. So
The
they're
diagnoses and labels are a big problem. I because it shuts you into this box where you no longer question things, that becomes your dog's identity or your identity. How did we get to that point in medicine where we just have to label it? The only time my dog has been to the vet, he's a year and a half. I took him in last year to get a blood draw for a titer test. And I called them ahead of time. I said, "Look, he's not vaccinated. I just wanna do a blood draw. I'm gonna send it off myself. This is all I'm coming in for." And of course, they had to do a physical exam, and I was glad they would still see him having not been vaccinated.
yeah, well,
And they did a very fast physical exam. She came in, and he was a wiggly little 5.5-month-old puppy. And the tech left the room, the doctor stayed in, and she says, "Well, It seems like he's only had one testicle dropped. He has unilateral cryptorchidism, and when you go to neuter him, you're gonna have to make sure you get both and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, "Wow, here's this happy raw raw fed dog with no vaccines, nothing wrong with them." They had to find something to say, and I was like I would check him. I know that's weird, but I would check him, and I knew he had both. So it was very weird to me that she said it, but it got in my head, and I got to my car and I'm like, "No, he definitely has 2." But they're trained to diagnose, and I guess you can confirm this. In medical school, there's probably a competitive nature to be able to find what's wrong and give it a label as quickly as possible. And I mean, that was one vet visit in his entire time with me, and she immediately gave him a label, which wasn't even true, and failed to mention, he's a little excited. They can retain them when they're excited. Or maybe she missed it because, I mean, it was maybe 10 seconds of her just doing a quick feel. So, it just blew my mind, and that was enough to send me into an anxiety spiral until I got to my car to check him myself. So, yeah, the diagnosis thing, it really affects our energy and how we approach things going forward. I mean, people get put in a box and then they lose critical thinking, which a lot of our conventional veterinarians have lost too.
Critical thinking implies that pause. You have to interpose the pause because our brains are going so quickly. But I want to go back to answer or comment on the label issue because labeling a symptom or disease or diagnosis, that is the basis of reductionistic medicine. We're reducing the body into its little pieces, little parts. It's also the basis of the fixed mindset. And that fixed mindset is the same one that tells us that this dog has cancer and can't get better. This cat has a fatal anemia and leukemia and can't get better.
Look at your cat. Yep.
But the opposite of fixed mindset is the regrowth mindset. So I want us to live in that regrowth mindset where we know that the octopus that loses the leg is going to just regrow that leg, or the blood count that's severely anemic is going to regrow in a matter of weeks if you provide the right raw materials, which are fresh food, lots of love, lots of love, lots of love.
Yeah.
That,
Space to be a dog, lots of movement. I mean, yeah.
exactly, and sunshine, outdoor activity, and all the stuff that is in that 101 class
Yeah.
that again will be
So
a
I'm
link.
gonna go ahead and let's talk through some of these things. I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know it's been over an hour.
Every
So
I told you last time that we could sit here and talk for days,
we
weeks, or
can.
the rest of our lives if
We
you
could.
want us to.
I'd
Yeah.
have an infinite amount of questions to ask. So I would be if you would just sit and talk to me, I would just keep asking. So I gotta stop somewhere.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
please.
So, okay, where we can find you, what is the main website for Holistic Actions? Is it
Holisticactions.com. Yeah.
easy enough? Easy enough? Holisticactions.com. And that is where anyone listening can find everything. They become a member of your community and then they have access to what are all the great things one more time?
The digital resources,
Mhm.
live webinars, 24/7 question and answer forum, concierge that will direct you in the right direction about, where you can find things. And once a month, you get a discount code or free code, depending on your level of membership, for a vet call, for a 15-minute holistic medical decision-making call. So really, it's all centered around holistic medical decision-making.
Yeah. And the beauty about this, I always tell people, I mean, I'm a lifelong learner. And I don't understand how some people aren't, but this kind of stuff is signing up for this membership is what's going to give you the tools to do better for your dog. And the beauty of it too is you can stay if you love it, but the goal of most holistic practitioners is that you don't need us anymore. And I always end with that. We wanna support holistic practitioners, but the beautiful thing is you'll be so empowered, and it's really a simple framework, and once you've got it, you apply that to your current dog, to your future dogs, your future pets, to your own health, to your kids' health, so it's really, really, really worth it to invest in something like that. I mean, it's how I'm pretty much self-taught. I did a formal program with, Doctor Ruth Roberts, but other than that, I've just taken advantage of resources out there like yours. 'Cause it's not stuff you have to be in vet school to learn, it's all things that we should know as dog guardians. We really should. And now we have access to it, now we have no excuse because programs like yours exist and
And that's also why I wrote the book. That's
yeah.
exactly why I wrote the book,
And your
because
book, "And the Path to Pet Wellness," you can get that anywhere. Do you sell it on your website or no,
it's
on Amazon?
available at Amazon and Barnes& and
Amazon is where you get it.
Noble, or, yeah, or any
Yeah,
bookseller.
it's an amazing book. Oh my
But
gosh. I
it's so
absolutely love
cute.
it.
I'll have to hold it up again.
Yeah,
So
'cause
cute.
that's what's so
Full of
hard.
Frenchies and yeah.
My role online on social media, I wanna educate and empower dog parents, but it's so difficult. Everything is short form. People want things now, 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 and people that don't understand the foundational framework behind what we do and what we believe in, they think there's just these one for one swaps. Oh, if you're not going to do conventional flea and tick medication, you're just going to do this. And it's really not simple. So I really encourage everyone to get the foundational knowledge because once you have that, everything else will start to make sense. It's simple, but it does have a learning curve. You do have to learn and understand it and embrace it.
Yep, and if you are that lifelong learner, if you're like me, if you've got natural curiosity out the wazoo, then you're always learning every day. And yeah, as you read more books, observe more animals, and just take in more wisdom that's all around us.
Anywhere you can get it.
And yeah, exactly, exactly. And
Remind me too, we didn't talk about this. How long have you been practicing? What did your
it'll be 41 years in May.
41 years. Yeah.
I just when I was 5, I just wanted to be a veterinarian, so I've just wanted to be a vet all my life. I just thought I wanted to be in research
Yeah.
for, my college years. Actually was doing it's ironic because I was doing research on individuality, but of cells. So cells are individuals because they have receptors on their surface that senses their environment and lets in things that are good and keeps out things that aren't good. That was the work that we were doing, and I went from there to actually the University of Pennsylvania wanted to keep me as a scientist, so they enrolled me in the University Scholars Program, which allowed me as an undergrad to become a med student or a law student or really any school that they were in, but I only wanted to do really vet school. So that's when I went into vet school, and yeah,
And how long
I
did you
back
practice conventionally?
a decade.
Decade.
I did my internship, and at the end of the internship, decided that I wanted to work clinically with animals instead of working in the lab or in academia. So I became an emergency vet and worked in
Wow.
emergency for a while, and then did house calls for a while, and yeah. And then eventually, my eyes got opened.
What
I
opened your
observed.
eyes? What would you say was the first
Oh,
thing? I
I'd
always like
say
to ask this.
it was actually, it was a person in Greenwich when I was doing a house call in Greenwich. She had crippling rheumatoid arthritis, and she'd already failed off the drugs that a rheumatologist tried to give her. And he said, well, there's this new thing out there called omega-3 fatty acids. So she started the fish oils. This was, gosh, mid 80s, and was like a new person within a couple of months. So I realized at that point that there was a lot more out there than we learned about in vet school or for the years afterwards. And that's when I began exploring the more H holistic, holistic with an H, supplements and foods, and that allowed me to use them for another number of years. And then I began to realize that there was even more, another layer that was deeper, and that was the holistic with the W, the holistic paradigm that's based in energy and spirit and love.
What an incredible journey, and it's
It
just I'm always curious, I wish someone probably has studied this, like, what happens there's so many vets that come out of school and they go the conventional route. What makes you guys just flip the switch where you're like, "Okay." And sometimes it takes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, some 30 years, some never.
and some right away. I
Some right
mean,
away,
I
yeah.
know people that they graduate and they know they want to do this kind of stuff, which is such a huge blessing. But I think it's two things. I think it's love, respect, and reverence of animals and nature, and natural curiosity. That's it. Because when you observe them, you know, objective observation, objective facts. I mean, we can say the Earth is flat, but I can also go up in a ship and see the round Earth. Well, Earth is flat. It's kind of like Newtonian physics. We know that, Newtonian physics works, but we also know that there's more out there, quantum physics or quantum healing, because what we're talking about really is quantum healing. And that is the difference between the particle world, the hard
The
world of
physical world, yeah.
Newtonian, and the wave world. And as and one of the original discoveries in quantum physics is that a wave and a particle, interact, and they actually go from one to the other, back and forth. And we're talking about people like, Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr and Heidegger that all were the founders of quantum physics. And I think it was Heidegger that even wrote a book called What is Life, where he tried to apply quantum physics to, the living paradigm. And now Tony Needle just wrote The Consciousness is All It Is, All There Is book, and that brings it all back to how it is indeed all one. But now we're really straying into the woo-woo, and
That's
I
okay.
think that keeping it in the mitochondrial world and the physiologic world, that's going to be our best way to meet me as a conventional vet where I live, and where most conventional vets live is in that particle world.
Mhm.
In that world where diseases and syndromes and symptoms have labels, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and we just discovered that that type of medicine was most profitable, most efficient, most profitable, and hopefully we'll all catch up. But there's some of us that are slowly catching up and working with individuals like yourself. But hopefully the rest of the world will catch up. We have to. As we get more and more chronically ill, our animals and our humans, we've got to start waking up to these other pieces, these energetic pieces, these spiritual pieces. I mean, there's so much more than just the physical body. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Unless you want to add
There
something else.
is. Oh my gosh. I
I
have a
know.
lot of things I'd love to add, but I know Maya says
I
time
know.
to
She
go
needs to go
outside,
out.
Dad.
Pine's probably ready to go out too. He's sleeping under my chair, but I thank you so, so much. I'm going to link all of your resources. I will continue to share your book and your community with my audience because you're a wonderful teacher. There's lots to learn from you and those who work for you. So, thank you so much for your time and all that you do for animals.
Oh, you're welcome,
And I
Bree.
hope that there's many more like you. I hope we have some younger vets that are taking a different path. I haven't done much research on that, but yeah,
That is my mission as well for the rest of my life is to help educate the vets and pre-vets and people that work with animals. So starting right here. So that's thank you for what you're doing, which is phenomenal, and I appreciate
you.
it a
Thank
lot.
you. I'm trying my very best. So I appreciate you and thank you guys for listening. Love your dogs.